Welcome everyone. This is Coaching in Session. My name is Michael Rearden, and today we're going to be talking about how we are the product of our environment. Now, the product of our environment is not going to be simply where we grew up, but where we stay, right? We can choose where we are. And if you remember on the guest episode with Ted Phaeton, Antoine Thompson, and Ralph Grace Jr., we were talking about our environment, right? We were talking about the environment that we grow up in is not so much about the environment we stay in, right? We get to choose our environment at some point. We get to develop the people we want around us, and we get to develop what type of life we want after we have created it. And this is something that people have a hard time with, right? People have a hard time understanding the concept of their environment and then understanding what their environment is going to entail. That means if you're a kid, you're growing up, your environment might be your school, your parents, your friends around you. If you're a parent or an adult, you're going to find that your environment is going to be maybe your friends, your family, close family members. You're going to find it's your work, and then maybe also your mindset, because again, how you operate is going to be different. Kids are going to see and learn. Parents are going to have learned and implement. And I know that's going to be a statement that you're going to have to rewind and then understand and break that down, because a lot of people don't even understand what their mindset is bringing them. Our mindset is literally our place of residence, where we stay on a consistent basis. And most people don't want to be alone. Most people don't want to be alone with their thoughts. They don't want to think about it. They don't want to think about the problems. They don't want to think about the things they have to change and adjust and fix. They would rather just not know. They would rather say, well, this is not a me problem or now problem. I'm sure you probably saw the meme of if something is wrong with your car, you just kind of raise up the volume. Or if a mechanic is saying, hey, I also noticed, and the person is kind of just like, hey, don't say anything to me. So we have that understanding of our environment, right? But let's start to break down environment to how it truly forms and then how we can form it in our way. The first thing we have to understand about environment is going to be behavior. Now, behavior is just going to be one of those things we're basically going to be talking about the bottom two areas of child development, environment and behavior. Now, we are going to be focusing on environment because it's the biggest aspect, because behavior is the next aspect. And that's going to be talking about, well, I'm going to be looking now at what people do. Because again, from 0 to 11, our subconscious mind is not fully developed. By the time it's fully developed, then that is when we have to start to look at our alone time. Because if we are not using our alone time to be effective, or just looking for an escape, we are always going to be escaping, right? So for example, if we have a problem, how can we run away from it? We talked about fear already. We talked about the concept that we have to not let those obstacles form in our life, because if we do, we're going to have those behaviors of not taking action. So environment is going to be about that, right? The behavior that we see is going to be the behavior that we implement. I was watching a video, and it was a heartbreaking video. I'm not even going to share it with you like via video. There was a girl that was riding her bike, and then it was two other girls picking on the girl. Now, you might say that this is just normal, right? But what was happening was the parents were just allowing it. The girl that was alone probably didn't even tell their parent that they were leaving. They just kind of left the house to go ride their bike. And then the other two girls that were there were just picking on her. And the parents and the siblings of the other family just allowed it. They just filmed it of this negative behavior. And I just thought, like, this is so sad, because what we have to understand is that as kids, we learn from the example of our parents or from the people around us. Whether you like it or not, they're going to be looking and they're going to be mimicking what you do and say. One of the reasons why I don't swear in my house is because, number one, you don't get anything from it. Number two, it makes you look foolish. And number three, have a little one paying attention. So how I speak, how I operate, my demeanor, my energy has to resonate, because now these kids are growing up learning, oh, it's okay to be mean to people. It's okay to dominate people and to make them feel bad and make them feel sad. So our behavior has become that. We have become desensitized, and it's not only about the video games. I know there's a whole video game topic about video games have desensitized us on how we can just do all these violent video games, and it's going to desensitize us. Heck, I grew up on violent video games. Ninja Turtles, Doom, Contra. Those are violent video games. All right. But guess what? I'm not a violent person. It's more than the video game. I want people to understand that. And I can say that because I understand that. Violence in the house, I grew up with it, but it doesn't mean it's my life. The environment I grew up in was violence. Ghetto, shootouts, gang violence. The environment was there. So why is that environment not my environment? You might say, oh, you got lucky. No. It's not about luck. It's not about luck. It's about behavior. The one thing we have to look at is the behavior. And then we have to understand what the behavior does. Because I can see my parents, right, for who they are. They're good people. And they're not in any way malicious where they're like, well, we need to go attack this person. I don't like this type of person. Racism is taught. Racism is not learned. Racism is taught. I'm going to teach you how to be racist. I'm going to teach you how to look down on other people of a certain color. So that's what we do. We say, oh, you don't want to hang around that person, right? We make it so stay away from that person. Yet in the child's eyes, they don't see color. Yeah, of course, they see the primary colors and stuff like that. But I'm talking about that. I'm talking about color of the skin. I talk about the story, and I'm going to keep on talking about the story because it's such a great story. One time I was in the car line when I was a teacher. I had just opened the door for 2 twin boys. They were in kindergarten and they were walking in. What had happened was another girl that was in their class. She comes out of the car, a couple of cars down. And so she sees these 2 boys walking in to the school. Now, the 2 boys are African American and the little girl is Caucasian. What had happened made every parent, every teacher smile. She saw the 2 boys and she yelled their names and she said, hey, their names. And she ran over to them and the boys were just there, just kind of walking in, doing what they were supposed to do. They started hugging on the blacktop. It's like, oh, it's so great to see you. Right? I saw the moms because the moms had dropped them off of the son and of the daughter, and both parents were so filled with love, right? Like, my child is doing this, like, is accepting of this person. And all the parents, all the teachers, again, they smiled. Yet today we look at race so critical race, right? We look down on people, right? Oh, you are this type of person, right? I can't trust you. You are the reason why my life is this way. The victim mentality. It's not an environment. It's behavior. What type of behavior are you allowing in your life to have that type of mindset? What type of behavior did you grow up on that you don't want to continue to live in? People have a hard time understanding that. Yes, kids are going to mimic parents. Parents might be a bad influence for their kids, but it doesn't mean that a child cannot get a good influence in their life and then understand that that is a good influence. Because not every child is going to have an ideal situation with both parents in the household, with both parents able to provide, protect them, with both parents loving and caring and nurturing them as they should be, because children, they have to learn about love and affection. Again, I talked about this already weeks ago on the emotional intelligence is not the answer. From 0 to 7, we have to teach about the emotional aspect, the kindness aspect, because when you're an adult, it's one of those passive things. You can't catch an adult up when it comes to emotions. It's their foundation, and it's not going to be something you can bring them to school, teach them an education class on emotional intelligence, and all of a sudden they're going to change their behavior. They need to have a trauma. They need to have a moment that wakes them up, because if they don't have that shocker in their life, they will not change. That's just the way it is. That's just the way how the mind works. Yes, can you do hard work and say you want to make some changes and maybe you do change? It's possible, but the probability is so much lower. They need that trauma. They need that harsh moment in their life. That's a wake-up call for them to saying, you know what, maybe this is not the right way to be living. So the behavior eventually is going to come up to character, and then that character is going to present itself to the world, and the world's going to either accept you or it's not going to accept you. And if the world doesn't accept you, now we have that trauma finally. That peer acceptance is not there, right? The world does not accept me for who I am. But we have to ask ourselves, if the world doesn't accept you for who you are, who are you? Because if you're a strong individual who is, for example, men today are very masculine, right? Men can be masculine or men can be feminine. But a masculine male today is considered toxic. Oh, he's masculine. He's a masculine male. He's very toxic. Oh, he believes in empowerment and he believes in leading and he believes in going off and getting his own and being successful and finding purpose, right? That's toxic now. The idea of what a man is to accept what he gets and to do the best he can with what he got. That's not living. That's not life. That's not the appropriate behavior for a man. talked about it. Culture and society are going to be there. Culture and society are going to be there. And we talk about equality. We talk about how it's not fair and how people are victims because of slavery and things along those lines. And we talk about how success is going to be a low number for African Americans, right? So if we look at like who are the wealthiest people in the world, the majority is going to be white. We can look at that number and say, well, it's not fair, right? It's a bunch of rich white people walking around the world. No. Right? Yes, some of those individuals might have got lucky. Some of those individuals might have had a silver spoon where their mommy or daddy's money. Now they have that money, so they are wealthy. We can create that same type of abundance that they have in their life. And it doesn't have to be money. It can be money, but it doesn't have to be money. And it is not taught in school. This is not taught in school that you can have it. You just have to go get it. And I'm not talking about robbing a bank. I'm talking about earning it. Earning what you want. The environment that you grow up in is not your end place, right? You can develop and create a new environment. Your behaviors that you have learned do not have to be your behaviors for the rest of your life. You can change your behaviors if you find that they're not congruent to what type of goals you would like to succeed. Because if you have behaviors of gangs and of violence, ask yourself, are the people who have all the things that you want, are they doing these type of behaviors? We have to look at the life of the rich and famous maybe, or maybe just the rich because sometimes the famous can have some issues, but the wealthy people in the world. And we have to ask ourselves, well, what did they do that I'm not doing? Or how are they thinking about things in the way that I'm not thinking about those things? Because it comes down to our mindset at the end of the day. But yet culture is going to say, it's not fair, it's not equal. Then you're going to give yourself that daunting idea of, look how far I have to go now. For many people, it's going to be a rough road because you might be in that bottom 10%. And you're like, man, I have to go all the way up to get to 100%. That's a lot of work. The subconscious mind is not going to be like, all right, let's go do it, buddy. No, it's going to be like, that's impossible. That's too big of a task for you. But yet there's going to be those, that 1% of that 10% that's going to say, you know what, I'm going to do it. I'm going to make my life different. Now, they might not get to 100%. They might get to 60%. But their life is going to be drastically and immensely better than the people who decided not to take any action. So the people who are on welfare, because if we look at the numbers there, blacks win in that number, right? Should we equalize that too? Should we equalize the amount of blacks playing in the NBA, right? That whole concept of affirmative action, right? We have to have a certain amount of culture in our school, right? It just can't be this or that person. It's not about grades. It's not about ethics. It's about, oh, wait, we need to have some more color in our school. Is affirmative action even racist, at this point? Because maybe we should have affirmative action for the NBA. Maybe we should say, well, we need to equalize this, right? We need to create equality in the NBA. Because right now, there's about 73% of players in the NBA who are African American. And there's only about, I believe, 16.8% of white NBA players. That is unfair, right? We need to at least bring it up to 30%. So you know what? That means we're going to be choosing people over color rather than their abilities and their skills. Yet in life, that's what we do. We say we're going to choose someone who is going to be better than someone who's just going to be part of our agenda. It's happening in schools, it's happening in the household, it's happening all around us. And it's something that's going to be coming up and you're going to be seeing become more prominent in the next couple of months, maybe even years, where we're going to start to equalize things that make no sense. Having color be a factor in the NBA makes no sense. You want the best player for your team. Same thing in the NFL, the same thing in every sport. You want the best player for your team, for that roster. It's not about color at that point. It's about skill level. We have that choice to raise our skill level, our environment. Because if you are in an environment of unskilled people, your environment of unskilled people is going to leave you unskilled. Yet, if you create an environment of skilled people, what happens to that environment is that everyone elevates. People feed off each other. This skill is a good skill. I'm going to learn, I'm going to evolve, I'm going to prosper because of my skills and my development, because of being in the right environment. Yet, we are just giving ourselves bad environments, bad skills, bad behaviors, right? We watch the mainstream media and they tell us, well, you have to be this way, you have to act this way, you have to do this thing, you have to be in fear. So we do it. We operate in that realm or in that life. But then guess what happens, right? We find that in 5 years, we are not where we want to be or where we should be because we were following the guise of people who are in control, who don't see our life for what it can be. They see our life for what they want our life to be. That means people are controlling your actions. They're controlling your behavior. They're controlling your thoughts. They're controlling your outcome. The outcome that you can create for yourself can be anything and everything. The environment that we live in are going to be, yes, the factors of our parents, of schools, of society and culture, and of the behaviors around us. But yet, the environment that we live in does not have to be the environment we stay in. So if we're living in a country that has a certain type of ideology, especially what is popular in woke culture, it doesn't mean that we have to do what's popular. It doesn't mean we have to be woke in order to operate. We can be that lone wolf. We can be that person who goes off, gets her own, knows what we want, because a lot of people don't even know what they want. So their environment is all messed up. It's all skewed. And the best way I have found to create the environment for your growth and for your life, for your betterment, fulfillment, and abundance, and anything and everything you want, is to separate yourself from everything you have learned, everything you have known. This is a hack. I talked about it before. You want to separate yourself from anything and everything that you used to have. And then you're going to create, you're going to be alone with your thoughts, and then you're going to start to make some adjustments. At this point, you might still be fighting who you were because, again, you have to break down that notion of identity, who you have created. And it's a very scary process. And I talked about this in Motivation and Motion. I encourage everyone to watch it if they haven't partaked in it yet. We just completed season 6 and we're going to be starting season 7. So I encourage everyone to catch up, follow, tune in, and learn how to be motivated, but then to use that motivation for the right actions. So this means we are taking the right actions rather than any action. All right. Taking the right action, right? Having the right behavior, the right environment, right? We create that. Yes, we don't have control who our parents are. We might not even have control in what schools we go to, what culture and what type of society norms are around us at this given time. Because if we look at society today, we might say that the kids that are growing up in this society today are going to be weak, are going to be unprepared. And yes, it is true, but it doesn't mean that they have to be victims of their society. How can we create a better outcome for them? And again, the best way I have found to get out of that is to do that hack to separate yourself from people. When you're by yourself, you're going to want to run away. You're going to want to run home. You're going to be afraid to be alone, right? It's a natural instinct, right? People are hardwired to be together. We are hardwired to be together. And it's perfectly fine, right? When you're single, you want to be in a relationship. And when you're in a relationship, you might feel smothered. You're like, well, I don't want to be in a relationship right now. If you're a modern type of mindset, right? Be like, oh, like I had more freedom when I was alone. But then as soon as it's snuggle weather, you're like, oh, wait, I need to find someone so I can watch Netflix with them in the winter and go under a blanket together. So again, that's culture and society right there, right? Things are just temporary, right? Things are just momentary, right? Versus long-term committed. This is where a coach comes in. This is where if you get yourself someone who's going to be in your corner, who's going to be helping you understand you have so much potential and you have so many skills. So let's learn how to utilize them. How can we start to utilize what we have in a way that's going to help us get the things that we don't have right now? For people who are struggling right now, they are going to have to overcome themselves. They're going to have to overwrite what they have been taught, what they have learned. And again, it's not going to be an easy task. Being a product of our environment is not our fault, but it's sure as heck our responsibility and our problem right now. So if you find that you're not in the environment you want to be, look at it, right? Do that self-assessment we talked about. How's your environment? Do people love and care for people? Are they nurturing and affectionate and things like that? Heck, why I moved to Texas was because of environment. I was in Connecticut, and the people in Connecticut, there's nothing wrong with them. But when I came to Texas, the environment was exactly what I was looking for. People, loving, affectionate. They want you to do good even if they're not doing good. That self-sacrifice, but it's not that they're giving the shirt off their back. They just have that prayer for you. They just have that ambition for you, right? I see that you're doing something. I got your back. And it doesn't have to be monetary. It doesn't have to be time. It doesn't have to be tuning into the podcast. It just has to be, I see you. That's it. But in Connecticut, everyone's worried about, I see me. I'm in my bubble. Where you grow up might not be your choice, but where you choose to live and grow in your life when you're an adult, that is your choice. So if you find that you're in an area or in a world that you don't find productive and effective to helping you succeed in your life, begin to make some changes. If you can't change your environment right now because of a commitment, whether it be career, family, or maybe even monetary, right? Moving costs a lot of money. So you might not have all of that right there. I encourage you to create a new environment. And that environment is going to be getting yourself a coach, getting yourself a mentor that's going to help you create that new environment in your mind, helping you create a new environment where you live. Because yes, you might be in the same state, the same city, the same house, and you're going to find that you can create an area around you, your family, your immediate family, that understands this is who I am, this is what I'm creating. If you're not about it, don't be about it. But don't get in my way either. We create that certainty together. So I encourage everyone to head over to revenconcepts.com, get yourself a complimentary coaching session, begin that process to ask yourself, what type of environment do I need to create? Because we don't have to be the products of our environment if our environment is not nurturing and leading us to where we want to be. We can create any new environment we want. We just have to understand how to do it, the steps to implement it, and then the actions to do it, because you know the steps already. It's just that, are you going to be accountable in doing it? And most people are not. Most people need someone in their corner that's going to hold their feet to the flame and saying, hey, let's make some changes and we're going to do it this way. My name is Michael Rearden. I'm a mindset coach. If you have any questions, you can email me coachinginsession@gmail.com, and I will see everyone on the next episode of Coaching in Session. Until then, everyone take care.